MGMT have finally released their newest album, and it's called Little Dark Ages. And yeah, for the beginning of the album, it's pretty dark. Let me give you a background history of MGMT. All right, MGMT hail from Connecticut, and of course, they came out a couple of years ago and actually landed a spot on Rolling Stone's top 500 albums of all time, 494 with their debut album, and that's pretty much it. And they also kind of does this like electro pop flavored rock music. Very nice to the ears. And we start out with this first little joint that I really like called She Works Out Too Much, which is pretty much about a female who's pretty much a gym rat. And the reason why they kind of broke up is that she works out too much and she neglects her duties as person in a relationship, and he's more or less a regular person who don't really like to work out that much. I really thought that that was a unique concept, and also I like the little electro or audio vocals, you should say, in the hook. She works out too much. Then you get a song like Little Dark Ages, which I personally didn't like because it was a little bit too dark for me. I mean, just there's other dark songs on here like When You Die, which is pretty dark. But for most of this album, it's pretty light, like with its concepts. Most of the concepts are about technology, like on the song to TSLAMP, which is time spent lying around on my phone. It's a pretty good song about how he spends too much time on his phone, which I can relate to that because I do, like for the most part. You know, I really thought that that was a very good concept. And when he's not talking about, or when the group's not talking about technology, they're talking about friendship. Like on the song Me and Michael and James, they talk about good friends they had. And the instrumental diversity on this album is pretty solid, I have to say. One thing I can point out is that on the days that gone away, it's pretty much an instrumental track. And usually I don't really care that much for instrumental tracks unless it's like jazz and stuff like that. But the instrumental track was so interesting that I just had to stick around. And then you have a song like Hand It Over, which have that beautiful kind of like background gospel choir in the hook that I found fucking amazing. Then you have one of the most redundant songs on here where it's called When You're Small. He pretty much says, when you're small, you're not tall. But hey, I can dig like the whole hook and stuff like that. I just found out a little bit redundant. Like, oh yeah, of course when you're small, you're not tall. But hey, that's just me. But for the most part, what can I say about this album? I mean, it's short to the point, sweet. The beginning of the album kind of like felt slow, especially when I hit the Little Dark Ages. But then it started building momentum and steam around like the end of it, which I thought that that was really cool, you know. And usually when the critics like shit, I'm sorry. Usually when the critics like give like their opinion on like these indie bands and shit like that and saying, "Oh yeah, this indie band is great." They're just doing that to like make sure they're not like left behind by history or being the latest, and so they don't know what's gonna blow up and pop up and shit like that. So they pretty much praise everything. But this band gets all the praise they need when it comes to albums like this. They've been gone for a few years and they come back with a very explosive and experimental album like this, which I really, really dig. So I'm going to give this album a 7. I personally loved it. Now please like, subscribe, share the video. And guys, so far I'm out. How did y'all feel about this album? Please tell me in the comment section. All right, goodbye.